And there's some nuts there if you want. That's a great start to the video. There's some peanuts there.
I'll eat some nuts later. So, like, how do you actually want to start with?
Just tell me what you thought of it.
Okay, so I guess we're reviewing Gates of Fire by Steven Pressfield. My initial thoughts of it was jumping into it. I thought it was fucking amazing, to be honest. Like, started reading it, and I was like, oh, the language is a little bit like old and stuff. And I absolutely loved the first few chapters. I thought they were fucking great. And then, like, sort of midway through the book, I started slowing down on it a little bit and slowing down more and more and more. And felt like some of the things that, like, maybe were set up at the start weren't really paying off. And in the end, it was a good book, I feel. But, like, out of maybe 10 stars, I'd give it like a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just give you a brief thing about it, and then we'll jump into maybe unpacking it after.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, the first half was like not the best thing ever, right?
I actually quite like the first half.
I mean, it was decent, but I wasn't like, I didn't know what to expect other than it was like this manly kind of fucking Navy SEAL readless book.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fairly interesting with like Zio.
Zio, yeah.
You know, kicked out of the city and he's like living with his cousin and that blind dude for a while.
Yeah, I guess that first part there is a little bit slowly. The little part there.
Well, it just wasn't like
the explaining of the training and how they're like sort of fat and stuff. And
which part?
like his city is all training.
Yeah.
To like repel the invaders, but they're all fat farmers that have never done any farming.
Oh yes.
So it's like by day 2 they have all given up on actually training.
Yeah.
So it's like,
right at the beginning,
don't worry about it, we're good.
Yeah.
Turns out they all got killed.
Actually, that's a good parallel.
To later on, right?
Yeah, with the actual Spartans.
Yeah, no, I'll let you explain your review though, and I'll unpack some of that stuff later.
You know, the first half was decent. I'll say it's decent. It held my interest. Like I got through the first half in like 4 days or something.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that second half was like the best shit ever. I enjoyed it. Yeah, there quite a lot of confusion with the names of people.
Yeah.
But you know, after a while, you kind of like that Dionysius or whatever.
Dynax?
Yeah, Dynax.
Yeah, Dynax.
And Polynikes or whatever.
Polynices, yeah.
Polynices. Yeah.
So, what was your rating out of 10?
Actually, originally I gave it an 8, but I'll give it a 9.
You really enjoyed it?
Like the end, like the last few chapters, I was like fucking like a bit upset with some of the things that happened.
For real? Well, okay.
And it was an interesting way it was told. It was like, it's not actually Zio telling it, it's like the historian telling Zio's story of him telling another story.
Yeah.
And there's also stories within that where like a character is telling their story to Zio, who's telling it to the historian, who's like writing it down.
Yeah. The introduction is actually told by Zio, and then the rest is with the historian.
Yeah, because it's like at first it's like in person.
Yeah.
I
did think that was interesting. Yeah, I liked that. I actually thought the dialogue was really well written. The dialogue was amazing. It was really good.
Yeah.
That's what drew me in. Every time they were having conversations about things, that really drew me in. And when our character was telling Zio, the main character, was also telling the historian, when that character's telling a story, it's actually all in dialogue, so it's easy to read, rather than when the historian's telling you something that Zio said.
Yeah.
It's all in that, like, sort of like Old English sort of thing. Yeah. So that was a little bit harder to read. Yeah, I guess we'll unpack it. Yeah. Sweet, man. Yeah, I think that okay, what have I got here? I've got my notes here. I think that the death scene at the start, like obviously you don't see him die, but you have this description of what dying is from Zeo, and he goes to the underworld where the river Styx, and there's like heavy amounts of like mythology pumped into this book that I thought was fucking amazing. And there's an awesome description of him having fallen to the underworld and being in this amassed river of souls. And he's there with his like Spartan brothers, and he's there with Dionysus, his master Spartan, who the guy is squaring for. And he's got no ears, no eyes, or anything. He just it's like this blob of like knowing consciousness, and he sort of describes what it's like to be dead. And I thought that was really interesting. And when Apollo comes down, he's like this shining globular light. And he's saying that he can almost see him, without having any eyes or ears or anything like that.
Is this when he gets his hands injured and he's in the snow?
No, this is right at the start. This is the very first introduction piece. Okay. And when he gets ripped back into his body, that's all really interesting because that's all been described. And when he comes back into his body, he's like, "Oh my god, I've been fucking stabbed in the stomach by the spirit."
Oh, okay, yeah.
And when he comes up, he says the word of Apollo. He says the name Apollo, but because of an Egyptian, it means fuck. They all laugh at him. They're like, "Oh, this guy's a funny guy. We'll pull him out of there."
Yeah, that does.
So he inadvertently saves his own life by saying the word Apollo, but also it's the Egyptian word for fuck, which I thought was quite funny.
Nice.
But I thought that was like an awesome way to start the book. Unfortunately, there was a huge amount of obviously it was foreshadowing. The whole thing was like, I'm telling you how I got to this point or this point in time, and I'm telling it all backwards. And there was lots of jumping back and forward and annoying bits.
Definitely, and it spoiled. Well, fucking everyone knows what happens, really.
Yeah.
Disney 300, but
heavily this is heavily influenced 300. Even the quote, "Now eat a good breakfast, for tonight we dine in hell." Like that quote is directly taken from this book.
Yes, right. Yeah, there's a few others like the fight in the shadows with the arrows.
Yeah.
But is that from here or is that like?
I feel like it's probably from here because what was it, 1989? This book.
No, I think it was like mid to late 90s, 98, I think.
98. Well, I think that Frank Miller definitely fucking took a lot of stuff from this.
I think 300 was not long after that. So it's entirely possible.
I definitely think it's probably from here. I think he probably just took artistic liberty with that because, how are you gonna get a quote from a guy who's been dead for 1,000 years?
True.
And
even if he did, it's not
accurate.
Yeah. Chinese whispers.
Interesting though. Fucking interesting that you say that. We'd have to fucking look that one up. So I thought that was really cool at the start. The whole training of those fat guys, I thought that was that was apt. It was it really showed the main character taking in that there's warriors happening. There's all this warrior stuff is happening with his village, and then defending that village. And it's a huge parallel to later on when everyone's training, because there's huge amounts of training bits in this. This is what the Spartans had to go through for their training.
Yep.
Huge amounts of that, which was interesting. The casualness of rape after that fucking after his town gets taken.
Yeah, that was disturbing.
And him and his cousin go back to get to the body of his mum and dad. The soldiers just rape her, and then they're just they're
feeding them afterwards.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Don't let her come near guys like us.
Yeah,
it's
very casual about it. It was don't go to the next town because you will get raped again. And
it's what the fuck.
Yeah, pretty. And actually, you find out later on that she has an abortion. She aborts that. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
But I thought that it was like interesting because like they'd lost everything, and they had to eat these horrible things like birds, and like they'd eat the entire thing but the beak and the feet, and like they had to crunch up the bones and shit like that. I think that was a like very interesting thing that this slave who was like the family's property. The mum and dad went to that slave for everything. Basically, he was the master of the property, even though he was a slave, and it was only because of his knowledge that he was kept around. And even to the point where like he basically became this guy's uncle even after his mum and dad's death.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. Living like a dog, man. It would have been sucked. Yeah, it sucked.
You know what I was really disappointed about?
What?
We didn't find out what happened to the dogs because they split up with the dogs, and there was like no mention after.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of lost opportunities in the book. Like, there's lots of things that I felt were really interesting that they just like skipped out on. Like, what happened to those dogs? You don't know.
Yeah.
And you only got told their names when they were losing.
Like Lucky and
Happy.
Yeah.
And like you only get told that as they're fucking walking off. It's like we could have fucking thrown that in anywhere else.
Yeah.
Grown some attachment to that thing. I thought that the whole like sort of like romance thing with the cousin was actually really interesting as well. I thought that that was going to pay off later on, and it didn't.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad it didn't. It seemed too
forced.
Obvious. Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was good because like they'd lived so long in the bush together.
Yeah.
They'd become like almost adults. But I can see what you mean. I'm not going to argue on that one. I just think that it was quite good. That touching moment when they left and she was like, we'll never get to sleep in each other's arms again.
Yeah,
that was basically her saying, I kind of love you. And him saying, I'm going to go be a Spartan.
Yeah.
Kill people.
Yeah.
She like kind of like, gave him the nod to go for it, you know?
Yeah. What was his reason for going there? Just because like he wanted a city to call home?
I think
or was it like because of there was someone who was talking about like, the Spartans would have saved us, even if it was like 20 of them. They could.
Yeah, his uncle would shit himself. Yeah, like an uncle who,
right.
like, instead of defending the town, just like basically crapped himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible. But yeah, I think it was cool that like he did have the hand injury and stuff, but it never gets mentioned. Like he doesn't actually become an archer or anything.
Oh no, he does. Well, not. Well, he's good at archery just from living in the wild.
Yeah.
Right. And then he goes to the Spartans, and they take his bow off him, and he doesn't get it back until he saves someone or something. Does something.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what the fuck happened with that.
But he gets it back, and then he's like using it in the Battle of Thermopylae and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it would tie into it later, but like it didn't.
It didn't play a huge part.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he's the archer.
I thought it would though, like because it's like the god Apollo obviously came to him in that vision when he decided to kill himself, and I was like, oh cool. So obviously Apollo's like granting him this gift of archery. That'll be his main like draw card, but like you said, it didn't really happen that way. I thought a really cool part of the book was when the Egyptian Marines came to help out the Spartans in one of their first skirmishes, and I don't think that they were actually fighting the. I don't know if they were fighting the.
They're fighting some other Greeks.
Yeah, they were fighting some other Greeks, and there was a really interesting conversation with the Egyptian, like head Marine, and I think it was Dionysus because he was heading up the patrol, right?
Yeah.
And he said, like, I'll open up this map because Persia's going to like attack you at some point, and I'm going to show you exactly what you're up against. And he's like, opens up the map and he goes, well, this is you. And he like points to this island, and then he keeps unfolding the map, and keeps unfolding the map, and unfolding the map, and then he's like, and the rest of this map is Persia.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking hell, that really does put into perspective, especially when they said something like, if you run at a pace, you can like do cross country of fucking Greece in 4 days. Like it really makes it a lot smaller. Like for those patrols and stuff, like Sparta was probably not very big. Like it's probably only like I don't know, the size of a city or something now.
Yeah, I don't know. How did you read it? Was it on the Kindle?
Yeah, I read it on the Kindle, so whenever I just found bits, I just wrote them down. Yeah, I don't have any fucking cool maps. Come on, Kindle, give us the cool maps.
Oh, yes, the waffle, yeah. I can't even find Sparta. No, it's not gonna. It's like the gates and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of the old like little stories that happened in between it? And it's like, was there any like one in particular that you liked?
Like
like there's one
like
with.
Super stands out.
I
Do you
thought,
mean like People's Tales?
yeah,
Or
People's
like
Tales, like Dionysus' brother, like he gets his wife off of his brother. His wife's originally sort of yeah, so like betrothed to the brother. But then later on, you find out that the wife wanted Dionysus the entire time, and that was quite interesting. I thought that was a good little tale.
It's like some angst, and it's like the whole honor and family thing, and like what you actually want.
I thought the things that the book did well was like it really did show like a closeness between some of the characters. Like I definitely think there's a closeness between the main character Zero and his cousin. I thought that was cool. I also thought that there was a closeness between him and Dionysus was cool. I also thought that the closeness between him and Alexandros.
Yeah,
he was fucking cool as well.
Alexandros was probably my favorite character of the whole thing, and his
he's like very headstrong and like just makes decisions and
like
he decides to quit and then like fucking they come back and
quit.
Yeah, I think he was like I think they were like trying to fuck off or something. They jumped in a boat and then they get ahead of everyone.
They want to like partake in this battle,
but they've been told
they can't because they're still recruits. And then Alexandros is like, I'm going, and he has that chat with his mum.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, you're not. And then he like pulls a knife, and he's like, I'm going, no one's stopping me. And it was just like a given that Zero had to go.
Yeah.
And then they.
I thought that was a cool like little journey that they both went on.
Yeah, and then they're like going across the
channel thing,
channel, and then they got kicked out of the boat and had to swim. It was a cool just tool to show like the Spartans in battle before Thermopylae.
I thought Alexandros like sort of really did develop over that period because like
certainly
Polynice, I think it is.
The asshole guy.
But he was also a fucking Olympian.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he had like a gold medal or something.
Yeah.
He fucking cracked him over the nose and broke his nose. So that's how he got the asthma, apparently.
Oh, okay. I thought he had it before that.
That's how he explained it in the book.
I thought it was like anxiety.
Yeah, I think it probably was. But they sort of explained it like because his dad breaks his nose 2 more times to try and set it properly.
Right, yeah. Certainly wouldn't help with breathing.
Yeah, something like that. So, I don't know, but... Yeah, I thought it was a cool character. And what about Rooster?
Well, I didn't like him at first, but, you know, he has, like, a turnaround.
Yeah, he does.
And he's, like...
he's sort of, like, your only link towards the end, eh?
Yeah, he's, like, the man right at the end. He's, like, a full Spartan and that. And, he captures, like, the historian dude, eh?
That was another thing I thought was interesting, is that the main character dies, and then the historian takes over, and then he gets kidnapped, and he has to give the Spartans his story, and like
and
that's basically the only thing that lets him live. But I thought there was a shitload of like just like bullshit training stuff as well. It was really slowed things down for me.
Yeah, I can see that, but I think overall for me it added to like you felt like you've kind of gone through a lot of stuff with them, and you know like how hard they worked and why they're like basically unbreakable in terms of will.
I thought the whole thing about the shields were fucking cool. It's like you can lose your helmet, you can lose your breastplate, you can lose your spear, but if you lose your shield, it's like you're not gonna have any mercy for them. Yeah. But then again, like the Battle of Thermopylae,
brother.
Yeah, like Dynamax actually uses 4 shields.
Yeah, because they
just keep breaking.
Heaps of swords and stuff. But I think just Alexandros' arc throughout the whole story is like what really captivated me. Like, you know, he's basically trying to be a Spartan. He has to overcome some odds and all that. And at the end, he's like finally there. He's like green still, but like he's like a full Spartan in the battle. And then they go on that mission to like assassinate Xerxes.
Yep.
And then he gets his fucking hand cut off and stabbed, and it's like a failure, basically, in terms of that little mission.
Yep.
And then he dies, and like, what's his mentor's name? Dynamax. And like that scene where like he's, you know, his apprentice or whatever is dying, and he's like crying and shit when they're not supposed to, and it's like, and then it was like, that was the last tear he shed or something.
Yeah.
Like he had like 30 seconds of being upset, and then he was like
back to like sort of unbreakable will there. Yeah. Well, it shows you that they were humans as well. Like, that's crazy though. Like there's a lot of breakdown moments for that Dynamax. I think that he was like this hardcore Spartan, but he really was a human as well. It's like the whole situation with his brother. Obviously, him and his wife did talk about Zeo as well, because they're the one who sent him on the quest to go find his cousin again. Yeah. I thought the fucking payoff for the cousin thing was bullshit. I was like, oh yeah, nah, you know, we both saw gods and stuff, and you know what, I'm okay, I just don't really want to see you ever again. It's like, even that, like, fuck. Well, yeah, we know we're still cousins. I might want to visit you after the battle. No, you think you're gonna die. You know what I mean? Like she brushed him off pretty fucking quickly.
Yeah. Overall, I loved the book, but I don't know. I might read it again one day, but not anytime soon.
It was a slog, eh?
It was hard work to read that book.
It was real hard work.
It's worth it. Definitely worth it. But if you look at something like The Martian, where I've reread that and I know exactly what happens.
Yeah.
I could only see myself rereading this if I don't remember what happens, but I probably won't, because some of it was so memorable.
Yeah, that's true.
We haven't talked about Leonidas.
No, Leonidas was
obviously
interesting.
Obviously, he's like a badass, but
I thought
his leadership qualities were just
impeccable,
on
right?
point.
Yeah, and it was like leadership. It wasn't like a king. Well, I guess it was a like Spartan king, but like it wasn't typical of a king in those days. Like, there's a quote in there. It's these 2 Spartans, and they're burning down in a like dirty hole. And so, wow, what's the difference between us and the king? And the other guy goes, oh, the king's in that fucking shithole over there, we're in this shithole here. Right. And I was like, well, that's, you know, obviously there was a huge amount of equality there, but there was like weird little stories that like fucking showed you how hard the Spartans were for no reason. Like they were slightly over hard. Like they did things to make it seem like, oh yeah, I'm a real fucking hard guy, I can do anything I want. And it was over the top, like
pushing the tree down.
I was thinking like fucking they fucking ransacked that bathhouse at the Hot Gates, and they got a whole lot of tents, and then they didn't even fucking use the tents. They just like put the livestock in it.
That's right.
It just seems like ridiculous. And the other thing is like not going with water for fucking 48 hours. So,
like someone died, and it's like that's, you know.
Yeah, like we're just not gonna feed you or give you any water, because it's a real Spartan way. It's like they had the resources.
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of argue that like it's a condition of war that they might face, and it's better to not have that be the first time. But you know, maybe give them a bit of sip of water before they die.
Yeah. Don't worry, he's just seasoned. If we just leave him alone and don't touch him, he might come back to life. But whoa, Okay, mate. Okay.
Another thing about Leonidas. Do you remember when they first got to Thermopylae and the Egyptian dude's there and he's like giving Xerxes like terms like, oh, you know, you can live and all that, and he's like, he hasn't met Leonidas and know what he looks like.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, take me to Leonidas, and they're like, oh no, he's just a crusty old bugger, but it's like he's actually right there and he's like talking shit about himself as well.
Oh yeah.
Then the Egyptian dude catches on, like, oh, you're like, is he like
I
talking
thought that
mad
was
shit
cool, yeah.
about him?
Yeah.
I really like that scene.
That was good. That was good. It really showed you how like down to earth he was, and like
Exactly.
also there was like a kind of a tactic as well to see whether the Egyptian was going to like reveal anything or fucking
Yeah, because they're like matey with them.
yeah. I thought
Like,
that
he was the guy with the map, right?
yeah, it was the guy with the map. Yeah, I thought that the Egyptians were fucking kind of interesting because they said this quote, and it was something like the wheel of time moves and you have to go with it.
Yeah.
And then Dionysus was like, well, it's a wheel, so you can go backwards too. And it's 100% accurate because, like, the Egyptians got conquered, and then they were okay with being conquered.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, we'll just do that. We'll be okay with being conquered. And that was the downfall, really, because they let the Romans conquer them at one point, and then they fucking burnt everything and killed them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Yeah. What else have we got here? I did actually look up some reviews of it, because I was like midway through, I was like, fucking hell, I don't know how I'm going to finish this. I was like...
you must have, like, powered through the last week or so.
Mate, the last fucking few days was intense reading. I enjoyed some of it. There's some of it where I was just like, oh my god, I was totally wrong about this book. I was going to tell Keith I hated it. and then like, I'd be like, fuck, this is awesome. And then I'd be back to, I fucking really hate this book again. Because it was like a little bit of that. That's why I gave it like 7.
With the, like, we know what happens, like, even if you hadn't seen 300 or know the history,
yeah,
it, like, reveals a bunch of deaths, like, fairly in the beginning. Like, you find out about Alexandros losing his hand,
yeah,
like, before the halfway mark, I'm pretty sure.
yeah.
And they talk about, like, Leonidas' head
being chopped off, or
yeah.
and like being mutilated and stuff like that, right?
It was interesting where once you were getting to the scenes near the end that you know what's going to happen, and it was leading up, made it
but
even
you still
more.
wanted something else to happen. Yeah, that
That I thought was well done.
it did. Like there was a little bit of that for me, but there was also parts where I was just like, I already know what happens here. This guy dies, and I was like, fucking. I felt a little bit disappointed, but I did definitely got that as well, especially with the Alexandros. I didn't see the whole fucking hand coming off thing.
Yeah,
I think I must have just forgotten it. Yeah, I must have forgotten it. But yeah, I read some quotes because I was finding it real hard. I got up to, I think it was 41% on the Kindle, and I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna finish it. It's like, fuck, I've got fucking 2 days left to read it. I'm not gonna read it after work. I was like, I'm not gonna read it. I was just too tired, and then I was like, 40%, I'm fucked. I was like, I'll just go and have a look at some good reads for it.
Yeah.
And I looked at them and they were like, oh, this is amazing. Oh, so good, so good. They're just like waxing on about how fucking good it was.
Yeah.
And like none of them were really giving any like detailed descriptions of what they liked or anything. It just seemed like it was just like literary nonsense.
There was
like,
not much that mentioned how hard it is to read.
Yeah. There was
I had no idea.
There was a couple, and one of them actually said that he got to 36% on Kindle, and I was like, yeah, fuck, I beat him. I fucking beat him. Well, I did actually finish it, but at that point I wasn't going to. I was going to give up.
So, like, that guy gave up at 36?
Yeah, he gave up at 36.
Wow, yeah, I can see that.
And the quote was, he said he got up to a piece of the book, and it said, nevertheless, I might, but without violating the sanctity.
Right.
And he just read that line 3 times, and he was just like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. And then he shut the book, and just shut the book off, and that was it. But like,
quite a lot of exposition, right?
There was a lot of exposition, and there was stuff about like I think there was a fucking piece where he described knee pads for like a fucking paragraph, and I was like, it's a bit much. But to be honest, some of that stuff was needed. You know what I mean? Some of that stuff was 100% like valid that he'd described. But yeah, that was one of the downfalls. And another guy I thought was really funny, he did a Goodreads review, said, it's one long Brandon Sanderson fight scene. And he gave it about 3 stars or something.
That's hilarious.
I fucking laughed my ass off because I was like, oh fucking, this is why Keith wanted to read it.
It was purely based on why I liked Killing Rommel.
Yeah.
And just the whole Navy SEAL, like it's on there.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was like, oh, this would be like a badass fucking.
Yeah.
And it was.
It was good. It was really good. I just felt like it lacked a bit of story. It was like huge amounts of exposition, lots of cool fight scenes, but like it did lack a bit of story.
Yep.
But like other than that, I thought it was like pretty like on point. The story elements that were in there were fucking good. Yeah. Like pretty good. But there was like little funny bits in there that I didn't expect as well. Like they crawled through. Oh, look at that! They crawled through that bunghole and stuff like that. And it was just like completely out of place, but I thought it was quite funny. Also there was a really awesome description of the goddess Persephone, and it was a cool like little story about it. It got a little background of Persephone. She was like the most beautiful goddess around. And Hades kidnaps her. Oh yeah. And she eats stuff in the underworld, so she always has to go back every year. But she sort of spends her life half time as Hades' wife, and the other half of the time with her mum on Earth, and she brings spring. She brings all the like flowers and stuff, so she gets really happy when she comes back to Earth. But I think, I thought that was like really interesting that there was a sort of duality, and Domachi, what's her name? That's a cousin? She actually saw her when she was like aborting the baby that she'd had from rape.
Yeah, that's right.
And the description of that was interesting, man. It was really good. It was like the face was human beyond human, and she said something like everything in life has been a dream up until this point, and her beauty was the truth. And I was like, whoa, that was like pretty like well over the top, but it was like quite cool. I thought the whole description of that was good. Okay. I thought that the whole like there was definitely a membrane of the fighting shield, like the shield wall. I thought that was like really cool. They likened it to a membrane, and when one part would fall, the shield brother just goes ching and like comes in and fucking knocks out anything that's there. And I also like the explanation of the little swords as well, the little daggers. Like it's so you can get right in close and just stab the cunts. Yeah. They're really good. What else have we got in here? I think I've pretty much like covered a lot of my notes, But I did enjoy the book, but there were a few downfalls for it that like really did make it hard to read and sort of almost killed me.
Okay. I can see that. Fair enough.
No, that's
do you
all right.
think some of it may be because it was spread out so long? Because I did it within a week.
Yeah.
Bragging, but I was like, there wasn't. I don't know. There wasn't any delay in between. Like,
I thought that too. Yeah, I thought that too. Maybe it was the delay, or maybe I would have enjoyed reading it slower.
Right.
If I had more time, I probably would have enjoyed it because I would have taken some of those like small stories and been like, oh, the whole thing with Dianac's wife, that was really good. I'm going to get back into this book. But the downfall of that is that you're never going to read the full book because you might just be like, oh fuck, I've got another book I'm going to read. So it was good to power through and do it. So it was good.